Good evening, Sophie. For tonight's bedtime story, we're doing a special request. We will be reading the Wikipedia article for sloths. So without further ado, make sure you're comfortable, make sure you have something warm to drink, and let us learn about nature's slowest friend. Sloth, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. This article is about the Central and South American mammal. For the cardinal sin, see sloth, deadly sin. For other uses, see sloth, disambiguation. Sloths are a group of arboreal, neotropical xenarthan mammals constituting the suborder Folivora. Noted for their slowness of movement, they spend most of their lives hanging upside down in trees of the tropical rainforests of South America and Central America. They are considered to be most closely related to anteaters, together making up the xenarthan order Pilosa. There are 6 extant sloth species in 2 genera: Bradypus, 3-toed sloths, and Cloepus, 2-toed sloths. Despite this traditional naming, all sloths actually have 3 toes on each rear limb, although 2-toed sloths have only 2 digits on each forelimb. The 2 groups of sloths are from different, distantly related families, and are thought to have evolved their morphology via parallel evolution from terrestrial ancestors. Besides the extant species, many species of ground sloths range up to the size of elephants, like the Megatherium, inhabited both North and South America during the Pliocene epoch. However, they became extinct during the Quaternary extinction event around 12,000 years ago. Together with the most large-bodied animals in the New World. The extinction correlates in time with the arrival of humans, but climate change has also been suggested to have contributed. Members of an endemic radiation of Caribbean sloths formerly lived in the Greater Antilles. They included both ground and arboreal forms, which became extinct after humans settled in the archipelago in the mid-Holocene, almost around 6,000 years ago. Sloths are so named because of their very low metabolism and deliberate movements. Sloth, related to slow, literally means laziness, and their common names in several other languages, i.e. French paresseux, also mean lazy or similar. Their slowness permits their low-energy diet of leaves and avoids detection by predatory hawks and cats that hunt by sight. Sloths are almost helpless on the ground, but are able to swim. The shaggy coat has grooved hair that is host to symbiotic green algae which camouflage the animal in trees and provides it nutrients. The algae also nourishes small sloth moths, some species of which exist solely on sloths. I would like to take this time to apologize for any stuttering or mispronunciations of words. This is a very scientific article, and I am not used to that. Nevertheless, let us continue with taxonomy and evolution. Sloths belong to the superorder Xenartha, a group of placental mammals believed to have evolved in the continent of South America around 60 million years ago. One study found that Xenarthrans broke off from other placental mammals around 100 million years ago. Anteaters and armadillos are also included among Xenartha. The earliest Xenarthrans were arboreal herbivores, with sturdy vertebral columns, fused pelvises, stubby teeth, and small brains. Sloths are in the taxonomic suborder Folivora, of the order Pilosa. These names are from the Latin leaf eater and hairy, respectively. Pilosa is one of the smallest of the orders of the mammals class. Its only other suborder contains the anteaters. The Folivora are divided into at least 8 families, only 2 of which have living species. The remainder are entirely extinct. Megalocindae. The Greater Antilles sloth, a basal group that arose around 32 million years ago and became extinct around 5,000 years ago. Superfamily Megatheridae. Bradypodidae, the three-toed sloths, contains 4 extant species. The brown-throated three-toed sloth is the most common of the extant species of sloth, which inhabits the Neotropical realm in the forests of South and Central America. The pale-throated three-toed sloth, which inhabits tropical rainforests in southern South America. It is similar in appearance to, and often confused with, the brown-throated three-toed sloth, which has a much wider distribution. Genetic evidence indicates the 2 species diverged around 6 million years ago. The maned three-toed sloth, now found only in the Atlantic forest of southeastern Brazil. The critically endangered pygmy three-toed sloth, which is endemic to the small island of Isla Escuda de Veraguas, off the coast of Panama. Megalocindae. Ground sloths that existed for about 35 million years and went extinct about 11,000 years ago. This group was formerly thought to include both the two-toed sloths and the extinct Greater Antilles sloths. I would like to also apologize for the ringtones that you might be hearing. My family is attempting to text me during my performance. Megatheridae. Ground sloths that existed for about 23 million years and went extinct about 11,000 years ago. This family included the largest sloths. Nothotheridae. Ground sloths that lived from approximately 11.6 million to 11,000 years ago. As well as ground sloths, this family included Thalassocynus, a genus of either semi-aquatic or fully aquatic sloths. Superfamily Mylodontoideae. Chloepontidae, the two-toed sloths, contain 2 extant species. Linnaeus's two-toed sloth, found in Venezuela, the Guineas, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Brazil, north of the Amazon River. Hoffman's two-toed sloth, which inhabits tropical forests. It has 2 separate ranges, split by the Andes. One population is found from eastern Honduras in the north to western Ecuador in the south, and the other in eastern Peru, western Brazil, and northern Bolivia. Mylodontidae. Ground sloths that existed for about 23 million years and went extinct about 11,000 years ago. Celadothreridae. Collagen sequence data indicates this group is more distant from Mylodon than Chloepus, so it has been elevated back to full family status. Evolution. The common ancestor of the 2 existing sloth genera dates to about 28 million years ago, with similarities between the 2- and 3-toed sloths, an example of convergent evolution to an arboreal lifestyle, one of the most striking examples of convergent evolution known among mammals. The ancient Xenothra included a much greater variety of species, with a wider distribution than those of today. Ancient sloths were mostly terrestrial, and some reached sizes that rivaled those of elephants, as was the case for Megatherium. Sloth arose in South America during its long period of isolation and eventually spread to a number of the Caribbean islands as well as North America. It is thought that swimming led to oceanic dispersal of pilosums to the Greater Antilles by the Oligocene, and that the megalonychid Pleomantanastes, fucking scientists, and the Mylodontid Thenobadistes were able to colonize North America about 9 million years ago, well before the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. The latter development, of around 3 million years ago, allowed megatherids and nothrotherids to also invade North America as part of the Great American Interchange. Additionally, oh, great, more Latin, fantastic. The nothrotherid Thalassaconus of the west coast of South America became adapted to a semi-aquatic and, eventually, perhaps fully aquatic marine lifestyle. In Peru and Chile, Thalassaconus entered the coastal habitat beginning in the late Miocene. Initially, they just stood in the water, but over a span of 4 million years, they eventually evolved into swimming creatures, becoming specialist bottom feeders of seagrasses, similar to extant marine sirenians. Mental note: before I start each video, go through the article and make sure I can pronounce all of the fucking words. Both types of extant tree sloth tend to occupy the same forests. In most areas, a particular species of the somewhat smaller and generally slow-moving three-toed sloth, Bradypus, and a single species of the two-toed sloth type will jointly predominate. Based on morphological comparisons, it was thought the two-toed sloths nested phylogenetically within one of the diversions of the extinct Greater Antilles sloths. Though data has been collected on over 33 different species of sloth by analyzing bone structures, many of the relationships between clades on a phylogenetic tree were unclear. Much of the morphological evidence collected to support the hypothesis of diphily has been based on the structure of the inner ear. Recently obtained molecular data from collagen and mitochondrial DNA sequences fall in line with the diphily convergent evolution hypothesis, but have overturned some of the other conclusions obtained from morphology. These investigations consistently place two-toed sloths close to mylodontids on three-toed sloths within Megatheridia. These words make me want to kill a man. Close to Megalonyx, Megatheridids, and Nothrotherids. They make the previously recognized family Megalonychidae polyphyletic, with both two-toed sloths and Greater Antilles sloths being moved away from Megalonyx. Greater Antilles sloths are now placed in separate basal branch of the sloth evolutionary tree. Phylogeny. The following sloth family phylogenetic tree is based on collagen and mitochondrial DNA sequence data. See Figure 4 of Pressel et al. 2019. I am looking at this chart, and I refuse to read all of these out loud. Extinctions. The marine sloths of South America's Pacific coast became extinct at the end of the Pliocene following the closing of the Central American Seaway. This caused a cooling trend in the coastal waters which killed off much of the area's seagrass, and which would also have made thermoregulation difficult for the sloths, with their slow metabolism. Ground sloths disappeared from both North and South America shortly after the appearance of humans about 11,000 years ago. Evidence suggests human hunting contributed to the extinction of the American megafauna. Ground sloth remains found in both North and South America indicate that they were killed, cooked, and eaten by humans. Climate change that came with the end of the last ice age may have also played a role, although previous similar glacial retreats were not associated with similar extinction rates. Megalochnus and some other Caribbean sloths survived until about 5,000 years ago, long after ground sloths had died out on the mainland, but then went extinct when humans fully colonized the Greater Antilles. Biology. Morphology and anatomy. Sloths can be 60 to 80 centimeters, 24 to 31 inches, long and, depending on the species, weigh from 3.6 to 7.7 kilograms. Two-toed sloths are slightly larger. Sloths have long limbs and rounded heads with tiny ears. Three-toed sloths also have stubby tails, about 5 to 6 centimeters long. Sloths are unusual among mammals in not having 7 cervical vertebrae. Two-toed sloths have 5 to 7, while three-toed sloths have 8 or 9. The other mammals not having 7 are the manatees, with 6. Physiology. Sloths have color vision but have poor visual acuity. They also have poor hearing. Thus, they rely on their sense of smell and touch to find food. Sloths have very low metabolic rates, less than half of that expected for a mammal of their size, and low body temperatures, 30 to 34 degrees Celsius, 86 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit, when active, and still lower when resting. Sloths are heterothermic, meaning their body temperature may vary according to the environment, normally ranging from 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, 77 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but able to drop as low as 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, inducing torpor. The outer hairs of sloth fur grow in a direction opposite from that of other mammals. In most mammals, hairs grow toward the extremities, but because sloths spend so much time with their limbs above their bodies, their hairs grow away from the extremities to provide protection from the elements while they hang upside down. In most conditions, the fur hosts symbiotic algae, which provide camouflage from predatory jaguars, ocelots, and harpy eagles. Because of the algae, sloth fur is a small ecosystem of its own, hosting many species of commensal and parasitic arthropods. There are a large number of arthropods associated with sloths. These include biting and blood-sucking flies, such as mosquitoes and sandflies, triodomine bugs, lice, ticks, and mites. Sloths have a highly specific community of commensal beetles, mites, and moths. The species of sloths recorded to host arthropods include the pale-throated three-toed sloth, the brown-throated three-toed sloth, and Linnaeus's two-toed sloth. Sloths benefit from their relationship with moths because the moths are responsible for fertilizing algae on the sloth, which provides them with the nutrients. Activity. Their limbs are adapted for hanging and grasping, not for supporting their weight. Muscles make up only 25 to 30% of their total body weight. Most other mammals have a muscle mass that makes 45 to 45% of their total body weight. Their specialized hands and feet have long, curved claws to allow them to hang upside down from branches without effort, and are used to drag themselves all around the ground, since they cannot walk. On three-toed sloths, the arms are 50% longer than the legs. Sloths move only when necessary, and even then very slowly. They usually move at an average speed of 4 meters, 13 feet per minute, but can move at a marginally higher speed of 45 meters, 15 feet per minute, if they are in immediate danger from a predator. While they sometimes sit on top of branches, they usually eat, sleep, and even give birth hanging from branches. They sometimes remain hanging from branches even after death. On the ground, the maximum speed of sloths is 3 meters, 9.8 feet per minute. Two-toed sloths are generally better able than three-toed sloths to disperse between clumps of trees on the ground. Sloths are surprisingly strong swimmers and can reach speeds of 13.5 meters, 44 feet per minute. They use their long arms to paddle through the water and can cross rivers and swim between islands. Sloths can reduce their already slow metabolism even further and slow their heart rate to less than a third of normal, allowing them to hold their breath underwater up to 40 minutes. Wild brown-throated three-toed sloths sleep on average 9.6 hours a day. Two-toed sloths are nocturnal. Three-toed sloths are mostly nocturnal, but can be active in the day. They spend 90% of their time motionless. Behavior. Sloths are solitary animals that rarely interact with one another except during breeding season, though female sloths do sometimes congregate, more so than do males. Diet. Baby sloths learn what to eat by licking the lips of their mother. All sloths eat leaves of Cecropia. Two-toed sloths are omnivorous, with a diverse diet of insects, carrion, fruit, leaves, and small lizards, ranging up to 140 hectares, 350 acres. Three-toed sloths, on the other hand, are almost entirely herbivorous, plant eaters, with a limited diet of leaves from only a few trees, and no other mammal digests its food as slowly. They have made adaptations to arboreal browsing. Leaves, their main food source, provide very little energy or nutrients and do not digest easily, so sloths have large, slow-acting, multi-chambered stomachs in which symbiotic bacteria break down the tough leaves. As much as 2/3 of a well-fed sloth's body weight consists of the contents of its stomach, and the digestive process can take a month or more to complete. Three-toed sloths go to the ground to urinate and defecate about once a week, digging a hole and covering it afterwards. How very polite. They go to the same spot each time and are vulnerable to predation while doing so. Considering the large energy expenditure and dangers involved in the journey to the ground, this behavior has been described as a mystery. Recent research shows that moths, which live in the sloth's fur, lay eggs in the sloth's feces. When they hatch, the larvae feed on the feces, and when mature, fly up to the sloth above. These sloths may have a symbiotic relationship with sloths. These moths may have a symbiotic relationship with sloths, as they live in the fur and promote growth of algae, which the sloth eats. Individual sloths tend to spend the bulk of their time feeding on a single motile tree. By burying their excretae near the trunk of the tree, they may also help nourish it. Reproduction. The pale and brown-throated three-toed sloths mate seasonally, while the main three-toed sloth breeds at any time of the year. The reproduction of pygmy three-toed sloths is unknown. Litters are of one newborn only, after 6 months gestation for three-toed and 12 months for two-toed. Newborns stay with their mother for about 5 months. In some cases, young sloths die from a fall indirectly because the mothers prove unwilling to leave the safety of the trees to retrieve the young. Females normally bear one baby every year, but sometimes sloths' low level of movement actually keeps females from finding males for longer than 1 year. Sloths are not particularly sexually dimorphic, and several zoos have received sloths of the wrong sex. The average lifespan of two-toed sloths in the wild is currently unknown due to a lack of full lifespan studies in a natural environment. Median life expectancy in human care is about 16 years, with one individual at the Smithsonian Institution's National Zoo reaching an age of 49 years before her death. Distribution. Although habitat is limited to the tropical forests of Central and South America, in that environment sloths are successful. On Barro Colorado Islands in Panama, sloths have been estimated to comprise 70% of the biomass of arboreal mammals. 4 of the 6 living species are presently rated least concern. The main three-toed sloth, Bradypus torquatus, which inhabits Brazil's dwindling Atlantic forests, is classified as vulnerable, while the island-dwelling pygmy three-toed sloth, B. pygmaeus, is critically endangered. Sloths' lower metabolism confines them to the tropics, and they adopt thermoregulation behaviors of cold-blooded animals such as sunning themselves. Human relations. The majority of recorded sloth deaths in Costa Rica are due to contact with electrical lines and poachers. Their claws also provide another unexpected deterrent to human hunters. When hanging upside down in a tree, they are held in place by the claws themselves and often do not fall down even if shot from below. Sloths are victims of animal trafficking, where they are sold as pets. However, they make very poor pets, as they have such a specialized ecology. The founder and director of the Green Heritage Fund Suriname, Monique Poole, has helped rescue and release more than 600 sloths, anteaters, armadillos, and porcupines. The Sloth Institute Costa Rica, no, I am not making that up, is known for caring, rehabilitating, and releasing sloths back into the wild. Also in Costa Rica, the Aviaros Sloth Sanctuary cares for sloths. It has rehabilitated and released about 130 individuals back into the wild. However, a report in May 2016 featured two former veterinarians from the facility who were intensely critical of the sanctuary's efforts, accusing it of mistreating the animals. This has been Slumberland Stories, reading the Wikipedia page for sloths. And I would just like to take a moment to say that I hate Latin with a burning passion. Good night.